eventually I was able to come back home and resume a little bit of life. It felt very unnerving coming home to, again, my support system, all, knowing what's going on with me. And like, in some ways I felt like they knew more about my situation than I knew about my situation, because when I came back to myself, a lot of the things that had happened were sort of suppressed. I couldn't remember the things that had happened, only what people had told me that things that had happened. And there were faint memories of certain things that had happened, but at that time I was pretty in the dark as to the details. And so I felt like a lot of people knew more about my situation than I did. And so, again, very out of control. And it has been the most brutal experience of my life. After I had come back to myself, I would wake up, after I came back to like reality and knew what had happened, I started waking up every morning, and it was the absolute worst possible thing I could have ever felt in my life. I can't imagine anything, like, any moment worse. But I would wake up, and for just a moment, I would have forgotten everything. I hadn't remembered yet what had happened, and it was just this, like, nice, peaceful blip, just a moment, and then the very next moment, everything would crash. Everything would crash down on me again, and I'd remember everything and relive it in my mind and just be crushed by this weight of all that had happened. And that feeling, I imagine that is what hell is like. I cannot, like, if anyone wanted to set up my own personal hell, that would be it. So it took about 6 months, but I finally woke up without that crushing weight, ruining the rest of my day. And I remember just feeling so grateful that had passed, and that I was able to wake up with a pleasant morning. So as time sort of went on and things started to, sort of slowly improve, and we figured out that I'd been misdiagnosed as bipolar, and that I actually was experiencing CPTSD, complex post-traumatic stress disorder, and that in rare cases it can conclude with an episode of psychosis and manic-like behavior. And it was very good for me, I think, to get off of the lithium. I had been taken off this antipsychotic about a month after my hospital stay, but I stayed on the lithium for quite a few months, and after I got off that, I think that is when I really started to improve and sort of regain myself a little bit. The lithium was pretty harsh on my body. I guess it can cause hair loss, and I lost like 50% of the hair on my head. It's still growing back, but yeah, so I lost like 50% of my hair. My mood was, I felt very detached from things, and just overall, like, rash all over my body, just pretty terrible things from the lithium. I know some people it works wonders, and if I was bipolar and lithium was my only option, I definitely would have stuck with it. But thankfully I was able to get off that, and I'm still, not convinced it's not bipolar. Who knows really what's going on? Still on the journey, figuring it out. And I'm not, closing the door on bipolar, but I feel like the CPTSD really explains the full encompassing issue going on better than bipolar did. So I feel really blessed to have had some good doctors that helped me to get that diagnosis. Experiencing something like this really puts life into perspective. It really forces you to slow down and to experience life frame by frame, moment by moment, and you really learn what's important. And for me, that is family, my Heavenly Father. I could not have done this past year without, oh my goodness, the Spirit's guidance. I just, there's no way I would have survived it. Family, friends, you know, my support system, my children, those are the things that matter, and everything else is just fluff. And I feel really bad because, you know, during this time, coming back to myself, I definitely, you know, shut a lot of people out and sort of built up those walls and those boundaries. I didn't do that because I didn't want their friendship or because I had any ill feelings towards them. It was honestly a survival tactic. I had no more energy or ability to maintain relationships with anyone else except for my, you know, my main family, my main people. And I was hoping to, you know, eventually build on that. And I think, you know, I'm starting to branch out a little bit more and reach out to, you know, some more friends, but not as quickly as I had hoped. And it's probably going to still take me quite a while to be able to regrow those friendships and, you know, gain new friendships. I think it's going to be quite a while before I can manage that. But yeah. So to all of those people, I love you, and it's nothing personal. I still love you so much and hope that one day we can, you know, rekindle our friendship. And to all the people that I hurt so deeply, so deeply, I hope that one day I can be forgiven and that there's understanding there, that, you know, those things were very harsh, very horrible, but I didn't mean them, and I was not in my right mind. I was so out of it, and I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. There is so much more to this story, and I'm excited to share it. There are certain things, you know, that have happened in my life, and that happened during this time that I'm not quite ready to share yet, but I really hope that in time I will feel comfortable to share those things. If even one person watches this and feels like they're not alone and feels validated and like there's someone else out there that is going through something hard or going through something, you know, very severe with mental illness, that it would be worth it to me to share this video. I know that some people might think I'm crazy for sharing, you know, things that are so personal, but to those people, I would say you are absolutely right. I am crazy, even a little bit psychotic, you know, depending on the day. So I do plan to share these things, and I'm not going to be ashamed of it. This event that has happened for me has been so challenging and so heartbreaking, but in so many ways I have become grateful for these things because of the things that I have learned. the things that I've struggled through have really taught me lessons that I would never have learned if I hadn't gone through this. And I'm grateful for that. And I'm choosing to see the good in so much darkness. I could have waited till I was fully recovered to share these things, but I feel like as a society, we don't get to see enough people in their struggle. I feel like we often hear from them once they're out of it, once they're on top of the mountain again and they're doing great. But the truth is, I feel like I'm still right at the bottom of that mountain. And I feel like there is so much more, mountain to climb. And so, honestly, if I waited till I was at the top of the mountain, I would probably be dead. I don't know if I'll ever fully recover in this life, from my mental illness. I think it might be something I struggle with for the rest of my life. And I've come to terms with that, and I plan to do the best that I can to be as healthy as I can for my family and for my friends and the people that rely on me. So I know this is a lot of information to take in, and it might be a little overwhelming, especially for people who aren't, as comfortable talking about mental illness. But I hope that, if you have struggled with mental illness, or whether it's severe or whether it's, a little less severe, whether you are, a family member to someone who struggles with these things or a friend, I feel like everyone these days knows somebody that struggles with mental illness. And I hope that you'll share this video so that, others in your friend group can see and feel validated and know that they're not alone. I'm sure there is someone on your friend list that would benefit from hearing my admission of mental health illness. I know that I would have benefited from hearing someone else's story. So I am excited to share more about what happened and more in depth into my past life and what ultimately brought me to this breaking point. There's so much, there's no way I could cover it in one video, and I think by the end of it, everyone would be like, So I'm gonna split it up and share it in little bits, but I hope that you enjoy the ride with me. This is definitely therapeutic for me to speak about it and to share my story, and so I hope that, I just want to be loved. I think the one thing I've learned most about myself this past year is that I just want to be loved. I want to love someone, I want to love others, and in return, I want to be loved. And so I hope that you'll just love me, okay? Just love me. I'm going to be sharing my mental health story and in the future, the story of others. So if you would like your story told, please email me and let me know a little bit about your story, and we'll see about spreading the word. It's 2021. We don't have to hide our mental illness anymore. I think that we can handle this, guys. I know that, sharing mental health can be a little bit scary, and it can feel like, a little bit of an unknown, a taboo, but I think that if we're going to end this stigma once and for all, I think the best thing we can do is talk about it. Open up about it. Let people know, the struggles that you're going through. I think as a society, we share so much on social media, but none of it, or at least very little of it, is real. It's a highlight reel, and I think sharing these very real stories can sort of ground social media and help us to see from a different perspective that it's not all Instagram perfect. People have challenges, people have flaws, people you would never expect to have a psychotic break had a psychotic break, and that's okay, and there is nothing to be ashamed of. I am grateful for the things that have made me me, and this, mental breakdown, this psychotic break, shaped me into a whole new version of myself, and I love this version of myself much better than I did the last. And I think that as a society, as we can accept and love those who struggle, we'll be able to go a long way in helping to heal a lot of the hurt that has happened. For those out there that are seriously struggling right now, I feel for you. I am here for you. It is a very, very hard thing to go through. And to those people, I say the storm doesn't always pass right away. So give yourself permission to dance in the rain. Let yourself feel happy and be happy, even in the darkest of darkest. Let yourself be happy and joyful. Let yourself feel love. You deserve it. For a long time, I let the weight of what had happened to me crush me and keep me from doing the things that I know I need to do and that I'm supposed to do. And I no longer allow that weight to crush me. It definitely still holds me back, unfortunately, but I don't let it crush me. For me, I no longer pray for death. I no longer wake in despair. And I no longer allow the weight of what has happened to me to crush me. I'm here, I'm alive, and I'm fighting to accomplish everything that God has in store for me, everything that He has planned for me.